I am an engineer, and this is the story after which I began to see life from a completely different perspective. It happened in 2014. On the surface, everything was fine. My home was in Hyderabad, along with my family and an ordinary routine life. Every morning I went to the office, and in the evening, I heard my children's laughter. The tiredness of the day would vanish the moment I saw my wife Amna's face. My childhood had also been spent in Hyderabad. The old narrow streets, the scent of school days, and the faint yellow lights glowing outside the doors in the evenings, all still feel alive in my memory. I completed my education there. My wife was soft-spoken, patient, and calm by nature. We had 2 children. Our elder son, Ayan, was 15, quiet but intelligent. Our younger daughter, Zartasha, was 12, talkative and full of laughter. We were a peaceful family. Life was simple, balanced, like a straight line that never bends. But one day, that line began to curve slightly. My transfer order came. I was posted to Karachi. At first, I took it lightly, thinking it was temporary and that I would soon be called back. Amna said too, "It's only for a few weeks, don't worry, we'll be fine here." But those few weeks turned into months. Karachi. This city had always felt strange to me. Even among tall buildings, there seemed to be a strange loneliness. I started living in a small hotel room. Just a table, a bed, and at night, the constant noise of cars passing outside. Every Sunday, I went back to Hyderabad to meet my children, eat the food cooked by Amna's hands, and then return again. The same journey, the same hotel. A month passed. I repeatedly requested my seniors to transfer me back, but one day my superior said firmly, "Asim Sahib, this project will last at least 5 years. You'll have to stay here." That night, I stayed awake for hours, staring at the ceiling as the yellow bulb cast shadows on the walls. Life suddenly felt different. Empty. The next day, I made a decision. I couldn't go on living like this. I would find a house here, and Amna and the kids would come to Karachi. For several days, I kept searching, asking my colleagues. Then one of them, Bilal, said, "There's an old house in Nazmabad. It's been closed for quite some time. The rent is low. If you want, I can give you the owner's number." I agreed. I talked to the owner on the phone. He said the house was old but spacious, a double-story building with a courtyard. "It's big, just a little sealed by time," I said. I decided to visit the next day. By the following evening, I reached Nazmabad. The house was tucked in a quiet lane. Outside the door stood a neem tree, its roots pushing the earth up slightly beneath it. The paint on the door was peeling. When the owner turned the key, a creaking sound echoed, as if the lock had been opened after years. The door opened with a groan, and a stale, cold breeze greeted me from inside. The house truly belonged to an older time. High ceilings, heavy doors, and a faint dampness on the floor. In one corner of the courtyard, dry plant pots lay scattered. I walked through the rooms, and strangely, I felt a kind of peace, as if the silence itself was speaking. I said to the owner, "This is fine." He handed me the keys. The next day, I moved in. I didn't have much from the hotel. Just one suitcase, a few clothes, and some documents. Some of the lights worked, others were broken. I did a light cleaning of one room. The atmosphere outside was strangely quiet. No noise, no voices of people. Sometimes a car would pass in the distance, breaking the silence, but only briefly. Then the quiet would settle again. The first night passed in silence. In the morning, I got up and went to the office. Later, I called Amna. I said, "Start preparing. We're shifting to Karachi next Sunday." There was happiness in Amna's voice. "Should I tell the kids?" "Yes," I said. "They'll be happy too." On Sunday afternoon, the sun was intense, but there was moisture in the air. When I reached Hyderabad, Amna opened the door with a smile. "It's been so many days since you came," she said. "Ayan and Zartasha kept asking about you every day." Inside the house was the same familiar smell of curry, books, and children's laughter. I helped pack. Amna quickly sorted the clothes, set aside some kitchenware, and placed the children's school certificates into a file. Every now and then Zartasha would ask, "Abu, what's our new house like? Is it big?" I smiled and replied, "It's very big. You'll have plenty of space to play." Ayan sat quietly. He usually didn't speak much, But that day, he was even more silent. Maybe he was feeling the weight of leaving home. By evening, we were on our way to Karachi. The kids' chatter kept the mood light in the car. But as we got closer to the city, the scenery outside began to change. The trees lining the highway gave way to shadows of tall buildings. As we neared Karachi, a strange noise filled the air, as if the city was holding something deep inside itself. It was close to night when we reached that old house in Nazmabad. Amna looked at the door and stood silent for a moment. "This is it, right?" "Yes," I said. "It's a bit old, but it'll be fine." I turned the key. When the door opened, a gust of stale air swept out from within. Zartasha immediately covered her nose. "Abu, there's a weird smell in here." I laughed and said, "It's just an old house, my dear. Once we clean it, everything will be fine." We quickly brought the luggage inside. Amna went to check the kitchen. I began sweeping the loose dirt from the courtyard. The dust settled on the floor felt like it held the footprints of another time. Sometimes I felt like I could see footprints forming in the courtyard. But when I turned to look, there was nothing. Maybe it was just my imagination. From the next day, we began cleaning in earnest. This went on for 4 days. Sometimes the ceiling fan wouldn't work. Sometimes the tap would run dry. Amna would say, "These old houses are like this. It'll take a few days to settle in." I believed the same. By the 5th day, things had started improving. Amna put up curtains, placed flower pots in the courtyard, and the children happily began preparing for their new school. Life in Karachi began to take its shape. I would leave for the office in the morning, and in the evening, I'd return to Amna's soft voice calling from the kitchen. "I'm making tea. I'll bring it in a minute." Zartasha played in the courtyard, and Ayan would often be lost in his books. Life had begun to move again on a straight path. But somehow, that path now felt slightly broken. Sometimes late at night, Amna would ask, "Asim, did something fall upstairs?" I would say, "No, maybe the wind knocked something over." But I knew. I had heard it too. A faint sound, like a wooden door being gently shut from the inside. One day, Amna said, "The rooms upstairs are quite nice. If we clean one of them, Ayan can use it for studying. It's too noisy down here." I hesitated a little, but said, "Okay, go ahead and clean it." The 3 of us went upstairs. As we reached the top, an odd stillness seemed to settle in the air. The windows were shut, but the air inside was cool, damp. Old curtains hung limply from the rods, thick layers of dust clinging to them. On one wall, a nail must have once hung. Now just a faint, dark mark remained. I swept the floor, cleaned the dust, and opened a window. A soft breeze came in, along with a distinct smell, like old forgotten books that had gotten wet. Ayan was happy. "Abu, this will be my room. It feels peaceful here." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Just finish cleaning it properly. From tomorrow, you can study here." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about his room. I don't know why, but ever since we had cleaned that room, the rest of the house had grown quieter. It felt like something had been taken from there, and the silence had been spread across every other corner. The next day, everything seemed back to normal. But a few days later, after Ayan started studying in that upstairs room, his health began to decline. One morning, I saw his face, pale and drained. He hadn't eaten anything the night before, just lay there, facing the wall. When I placed my hand on his forehead, his body was burning with fever. He was sweating too. My heart, for a moment, a wave of fear rose within me. But I told myself, maybe it's just a seasonal fever. I dipped a cloth in water and wiped his forehead. But Ayan, with his eyes still closed, was murmuring something. I bent closer to listen. His voice was so faint, I couldn't make out the words. For a few seconds I just sat there, frozen. Then I gathered myself and called out to my wife. "Don't send Ayan to school today. I'll take him to the doctor in the evening." Saying that, I left for work. When I returned that evening, Ayan's condition hadn't improved. I freshened up, had dinner quickly, and then took him to the doctor. The doctor examined him, asked a few questions, and then fell silent. "He's extremely weak," he finally said, "and he isn't sleeping well." I nodded. "He's been very quiet for the last few days. withdrawn. The doctor smiled gently. Sometimes children go through phases. Maybe school stress or emotional pressure. Don't worry. Let him rest for 2 days, he'll be fine. I took the prescription and stepped out. But inside me, that strange discomfort remained. The same feeling that hadn't left since last night. Ayan sat in the back seat, his head resting quietly against the window. I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. His eyes were closed, but he had a faint smile on his lips, as if he were whispering something to himself. "Ayan," I called softly. He slowly opened his eyes. There was tiredness on his face. I brought him home. 2 days later, he was completely fine. But then came a day that shook me to my core. That evening, I returned home a little later than usual. Ayan and Zartasha were playing in the courtyard. Amna had prepared dinner. I freshened up and sat down to eat. We talked during dinner, light jokes, the usual fatigue, everything felt normal. Right after eating, Ayan stood up and said, "Abu, I'm going upstairs to study." I said, "All right, son, but don't stay up too late. You've got school tomorrow." He smiled and went upstairs. Zartasha pretended to be sleepy and went to bed with Amna. Within minutes, the entire courtyard fell silent. Only the faint hum of the ceiling fan remained. I sat on the chair. The clock on the wall showed 9 o'clock. And then suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. Ayan is alone upstairs. I don't know why, but a faint uneasiness began to creep into my heart. I told myself, maybe I should go check, just to be sure. As I climbed the stairs, the silence around me deepened. Each footstep echoed, bouncing off the walls. When I reached the top, the lighting was dim, and the door to the room was half open. I gently pushed the door. Inside, the study lamp was on, casting a focused beam of light on Ayan's face. He was hunched over, writing in his books. But then, my eyes drifted behind him. A woman was standing there. Her hair was perfectly straight, falling just below her shoulders. Her face, so pale, that even the light couldn't settle on it. Her height, unnaturally tall. I looked down, and my breath stopped. Her feet were backwards. And she wasn't standing on the ground. She was slightly suspended in the air, as if hanging from an invisible thread. My heart began to pound. I blinked and looked again. But she was still there. Exactly the same. Ayan was still bent over his notebook, completely unaware, as if he felt nothing. And the woman, she just kept staring at him. Sweat began to pour down my body. I tried to step back, but my feet felt stuck, frozen. My heart screamed to shout, but no sound came from my throat. I didn't know what to do. If I called out to Ayan, what if she harmed him? 10 full minutes passed like that. Me standing at the door, frozen, staring at something I couldn't even fully understand. Then, suddenly, a thought came to my mind. I slowly closed my eyes and began reciting verses from the Quran, loudly. As the words left my tongue, a chill ran down my spine. I kept repeating the verses, my voice trembling, over and over again. Then suddenly, Ayan's voice broke through. "Abu, what are you reading?" I opened my eyes instantly. The room was empty. Only Ayan was sitting there, looking at me in confusion. I rushed to him, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Son, who was just here?" Ayan looked at me, puzzled. "Who?" "I'm alone, Abu." I looked into his eyes. Peaceful, innocent. But just for a second, in the depths of his eyes, it felt like something shifted. Like a shadow moved. As if someone else had been there. Just for a moment. I brought him downstairs. Amna asked, "What happened?" I just said, "Nothing. It got late, that's all." But that night, I couldn't sleep. And the very next day, I made a decision. We would no longer live in that house. I didn't tell Amna the whole truth. Only that, I don't feel right in that place. She was surprised. But after looking at my face, she didn't argue. In 2 days, we packed everything. I returned the keys to the landlord. As we were leaving, I turned back one last time. The same old gate, the same yellowing walls, and that upstairs window. Just a glimpse of it. Felt like an eye watching me go. We rented a new house in Gulistan-e-Johar. Nothing fancy. Not big, not old. Just a normal house. But as soon as we moved, I felt, maybe now everything would be okay. For the first 2 days, things were normal. Ayan laughed, went to school. But then, on the third night, I saw him in his sleep, murmuring again. The words weren't clear, but one phrase he kept repeating over and over. Don't go upstairs. I shook him gently, and he woke with a start, bursting into tears as soon as his eyes opened. Amna was immediately worried. I asked, "What's wrong, son?" But he said nothing. I froze for a moment. Even after changing homes, that shadow had followed us. The next day, I didn't send him to school. By the afternoon, I went to see an elderly Maulvi Sahib. Next to a small mosque was his room. Cool light, the smell of books, and a strange peace on the face. I told the whole incident. Maulvi Sahib listened silently for a long time. Then he gently said, "Son, sometimes it is not about the places, not about the things. The problem lies in the eye that sees them." I couldn't understand much. He opened the Holy Quran, read a few verses. Then he blew over water for Ayan and said, "Give this water to him daily." I brought that water. That night, we all sat in the room and recited the Quran. Ayan's health gradually started to improve, and we began living peacefully in that house. But that fear, those days and nights, that woman still comes to my mind. Friends, how did you like this story? If you liked it, please subscribe to the channel, like the video,